The Angry Chicken Hearthstone podcast is produced by amove.tv. Check out amove TV for more podcasts covering Blizzard games. For more of Jocelyn's gaming podcasts, visit jossplays.com. And to find many more podcasts with Ridiculous Hat, follow @RidiculousHat on Twitter. Every episode of Tech is made possible thanks to our legendary patrons over at patreon.com/TAC.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Legendary!
You face Jaraxxus. You smell like a leper gnome. I knew it. So hot.
A podcast about Hearthstone and Battlegrounds. This is The Angry Chicken!
Greetings and welcome back, everybody. This is, as previously stated, The Angry Chicken. I'm Garrett, here as always with Jocelyn and Ridiculous Hat. How are you two doing on this Monday evening?
Not too shabby, not too shabby. How are you doing, Hat?
I'm doing okay, hanging in there. How are you doing, Garrett?
I'm grumpy for reasons that have nothing to do with this podcast, but I'm ready to hang out with my Hearthstone friends. Talk, just friends. You don't need a modifier. And drink. I'm drinking tonight, just so everyone knows.
We'll allow it.
And by drinking, I'm having one drink. And if that makes me too loopy, then
it's too late now.
It's too late now. Yeah. So I'll just get funnier and more interesting as the show goes on. That is not me saying that drinking makes you funnier and more interesting. Children, don't drink. It's terrible. If nothing else, it's a very expensive hobby. It's terrible. It just creeps up on you, much like the price of Hearthstone.
Oh, topical. Look
Ooh,
at that.
Is it topical? I did have yet another week where I went, I want to play that aggro priest, and then went, nope, I'm missing literally all the legendaries. Yep, okay, cool.
Oh, I've had my achievements for all of the cards and all of
that must be nice. That must be nice, Joss. It must be nice to have a nice.
It's like week 1.
Yeah, I mean that's what happens when you have Joss luck. That's what happens when you actually get legendaries. That's what happens.
I also had I want to say 5,000 gold or more. I had almost a pre-order's worth of packs from from just gold purchases.
I have a bonkers amount of gold as well, but so priest aside, so far I've been able to play almost every deck I want to from this expansion, and I've just been I just want to see how long I can hold out. Just sit there on my.
I did none of that. Day 1, I was like, "Oh my gold, let's go!"
Yeah. We haven't really talked about this. I was kind of I think this was the first expansion in a really long time that I only did the one big pre-order. I didn't do the smaller one. And then I was just kind of I'll just see how it goes. Maybe dust a gold legendary here or there if I'm really, really feeling like I need to play something. And so far I've been good outside of that priest deck.
Well, there are rumors that one of those legendaries is not going to be around much longer, so maybe your patience was a good thing.
Although, I mean, it would have been fine, because if I had crafted it and it got nerfed, then I would have gotten my dust back.
You don't get your dust back for the rest of the deck.
That's fair.
I mean, I think that Shadow Priest is still a reasonable craft, but...
I was going to say, which legendary are we talking about? Because it's not going to be, dude, they made Diamond Benedictus, right?
No.
Okay. Oh, okay. But the deck still works without her.
You lose a lot of games when you don't get to go 3 mana, your opponent doesn't get to take a turn. That card's pretty good.
True, it is very good, but I still there's still 29 other cards in the deck that make it do the thing it does.
Function.
Yeah.
It'll still function, but it's currently Shadow Priest is currently the best deck in every format right now, or on every site in Standard, and is one of the better decks in Wild. And Elucia is definitely a big part of that. So I imagine that its positioning in the meta might shift dramatically if they move Elucia, but they'll move some other stuff. We'll talk about that later in the Standard section. But I believe we have some patrons this week, Garrett. Who do we have?
Dude, we have patrons this week? What?
We do.
Wow, I don't know why I'm acting surprised because I see their names that I put in here right in front of me. Yeah, we always have patrons. We have new patrons we want to thank today specifically, but we always have patrons. If we didn't, I would be very concerned because this show helps pay my bills. And if you would like to help pay my bills and Jocelyn's bills and Ridiculous Hats bills, you should go over to patreon.com/TAC and support this here podcast. Because despite what that one random person says on YouTube, we are not in the back pocket of Blizzard. I do not sleep on a giant pile of money with Bobby Kotick's face stamped into it. That's not how this works.
It'd be weird if you did, because that wouldn't be worth anything anywhere.
Has anyone said that? That's a pretty specific concern to share.
Well, I mean, if it was stamped into it, that would at least assume that it's made out of metal, and with any hope, it's a precious metal, and so maybe it would still have monetary value.
I see. So actual, real golden Bobby Bucks.
I mean, I've seen his face photoshopped onto Gallywix enough times to assume it's gold. Yeah. Anyways, if you would like to support us, this program, and everything to do with it, check out patreon.com/TAC. And to our most recent patrons, we want to thank Alex Roke. You know who you are, if that is your real name. I know it isn't. And Ethan Wolf. Thank you so much, Alex and Ethan, for your support of this here podcast called The Angry Chicken. And if you're out there listening to the sound of my voice and you're thinking, I've heard them thank producers every single episode. I can't afford that. Well, we also accept $1. $1. You can do $1, and we really appreciate it. It actually makes up the most of our patrons, and that $1 will get you access to our patron-only Discord and an ad-free version of the podcast for your trouble. So, thanks, everybody. Go check out patreon.com/TAC. And now we're going to get into this week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
The mysteries of Stormwind have been solved. Does anyone consider this a spoiler? Do I have to put a spoiler alert?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're not telling them how to do it because it would take literally the entire length of the podcast to explain it. So, I mean, we're not going to spoil anything. We're just saying, hey, if you want this secret finding crazy card back that you get with this expansion, like last expansion, then you can go follow a lot of crazy stuff. Get yourself
oh my
card
goodness.
Back. Okay,
I just opened this for the first time. What is happening here?
Right? It's absolute insanity. Like, just
there's a honeycomb graphic written on lined paper with a red line, and that's just the first puzzle.
And that's step one. Yeah, I honestly like the secret finding Discord I became familiar with through World of Warcraft. But I know this is now the second time there's been a card back for solving a crazy mystery in Hearthstone, and the secret finding community was part of solving it the first time around. And I feel like this has just turned into this competition between like the devs and the community of like who can get crazier and like who can stump who, because like, I mean, this thing is just, it's bonkers compared to anything else I've ever seen in either World of Warcraft or Hearthstone. Like, this is just nuts. It's like, yeah, it's like traversing portals or something. I don't even know. Again, there's a link in the show notes that can show you how to do it, but this thing is bananas.
It's such a cool mix of both parties being aware of what the other party is capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, there's like one spot in the middle, and I didn't read and understand the whole way through it, but there's this like one part in the middle that people were saying it has to do with like playing a certain card on a certain board or something like that. And there was like, I don't even like something like 300,000 possible combinations that like for one person to do it, it would have been basically impossible. So like they're creating these challenges based on knowing that there is a community of thousands of people that are going to be working hard to try to figure this out. So yeah, I was just like, man, oh man, this is, again, like you say, they both know that the other exists, and they're kind of like, I mean, Blizzard is obviously trying to stump the secret finding Discord, but I mean, the internet has some smart people on it too, and damn, I don't even know how, like, For me, I don't even understand how these people get started into these quests. Like, how do you know what even like the first step is to get into a place where they've built you a puzzle? I don't know.
There is a written solution for like this is the order of steps that you have to do it, and I'm having trouble parsing the solution, let alone the problem. Like, I need someone to tutor me on the answers to the take-home test, not even the test.
I see
Yeah,
point
But I
A.
have a list of the answers.
I see point A. I see point B. I see how to get from point A to point B, but I don't understand it. It's like saying, "Oh yeah, you can do this. You just have to know how to tightrope walk." And it's just like, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't actually know how to do that. So giving me the map is irrelevant." Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, this goes so far beyond anything we saw in the first secret that we got. And well, I do have an oil change coming up, and that's when I did the secrets for the first time, while I was sitting there waiting for my car to be done. So maybe I'll give this a shot again. I don't know. After looking at this piece of loose leaf paper, sorry, pieces of loose leaf paper.
Yeah, plural.
Yeah, I don't know. This one looks a little daunting. A little daunting.
And yet still solved in like a matter of days, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little sad. The issue this time, there was I believe a tech issue where the variables that were in play were being leaked by the log, which I think was not supposed to happen. So some folks scraped the log and found out what was supposed to happen in there, and then brute force the puzzle that way. So
Mm.
it was definitely a little disappointing. I know Celestalon was the one that did the majority of the work here, and he was definitely disappointed that it landed there. But just looking at the puzzle holistically and how much work went into making it and how complex it is, it's a pretty incredible achievement just to have it in the game. And I know the Secret Finding Discord was well on their way to solving it before the solution got leaked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we've also had a few XR AMAs since the last time we met and tried to wrap our brains around mercenaries. So we thought we would take a moment on today's episode and discuss some of the highlights from information that XR has been putting out there as a result of questions from the community. Starting with that, there are no planned large overhauls of Hearthstone's UI, a topic brought up frequently, not only on this podcast, but in our podcast community. Our Discord loves talking about the overhaul or potential overhaul or daydreaming about the potential overhaul of Hearthstone's UI. XR did mention, though, that improvements to the shop, Battlegrounds menu, and collection are being planned. For me, I was really happy to hear a shout out to the Battlegrounds menu, because I think the way that we choose our super dope bartenders that I like having is really weird and seems extremely tacked on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that like monetizing that mode was such a secondary consideration that it just kind of went to this place of where can we stuff it for now? And what can we do and how can we just get this out next week kind of deal. So I think that there were some design elements that kind of fell by the wayside as they were kind of trying to get ahead of this mode and ahead of the popularity and figure out how to actually monetize. So I think it does need an overhaul, because I completely agree. It's not nearly as straightforward as one would hope. I mean, it's fine for how the mode launched, which was literally like you push the play button. You don't have to choose anything. But as soon as you started to kind of layer on those different like complexities, like the stats and the perks and the like now the cosmetics, it's a little bit bad.
Yeah, it's just not the polish I'm kind of
Yeah.
used to, really, is all I'm getting at. So I was happy to hear that get a shout out. Also, there's been a lot of, this was very recent, and it went beyond just a simple answer. There's a lot of kind of conversation around it on the Twitter sphere. But mention that Nax Ramus is hopefully coming to Classic, but they aren't sure when to do it. And I think when is a very key operative word there. It's not if they should, it's when they should.
Yeah. So I think that this was kind of the question that I think was on everybody's mind after we got the Burning Crusade Classic announcement over on the World of Warcraft side, because WoW was the first of the Blizzard properties to really have this idea of a classic game, and then Hearthstone followed suit and gave us classic like ladder and mode and everything else, and now they announced Burning Crusade on that side, and then it's like, oh, does that mean, are we going to get Nax? What's that going to look like? And I think that like that kind of how and when question is what they're really looking at. Like, do they put Nax out and give us like a classic Nax, right? And then just kind of keep adding on, or do they do the Warcraft thing, which is like give us classic and classic plus Nax, and just keep adding on that way, but giving us a whole bunch of different ways to still play classic and not getting rid of like vanilla Hearthstone.
I think we found the point where I actually bring up the concern of fracturing the player base in Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm.
I previously didn't think that line existed.
They can probably see what the user base of Classic looks like, and that's probably, I would think, decreasing. Like, I mean, there's no changes to the mode there, and maybe if they knew there was like a solid end date, like this is going to be available for 2 months or 3 months or whatever, and then we're going to put Nax into it, maybe there would be more players wanting that experience. Like, I don't know, but I mean, if they're looking at data on the back end that's saying, hey, there's, only a few thousand people who ever really, log in to play Classic, and everybody else is playing in other Hearthstone modes, like maybe you do refresh that. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And maybe they just get to a point like up until they started the standard rotation and then just say like, we're going to go Classic, Nax, like boom, 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 all the way up to when we started standard rotation. And instead of adding in those standard rotation cards, we're going to go back to Classic again. And maybe that just stays cyclical.
Like time walking. Wow.
Yeah. Time walking or seasons and Diablo. Like, I have essentially zero desire to go into Classic right now, but if I couldn't play Classic for a while because it was Nax or because it was GVG, or you pick you choose your own meta adventure, make me miss it and then bring it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you love it, set it free. So
how can I miss you if you never leave?
Yeah. Well, we were without Classic for 7 years, so we can go less time than that. But it'd be interesting to get it back. I have many points around this particular point. Yeah. So the question that popped up on Twitter that they're talking about internally as well. What's the last set that you add to Classic Hearthstone? What do you personally consider the last set of Classic Hearthstone? Because you look at the different eras of Hearthstone, it's going to be a very personal thing. But I'm curious what you two think. What would be the last set you would add? You consider the last set of classic old school Hearthstone?
What was the last set before Old Gods? League of Explorers?
League of Explorers.
League of Explorers.
That was the last set before the standard format existed.
Yep.
That's where Alec lands. He says pre-rotation seems to be the way to go. And that would probably be where I'd land.
Yeah.
I think that's like my personal opinion as well, I think, because that was Year of the Kraken was 2016, was Whispers of the Old Gods. And then before that, it was 2 years where it was just, it was Nax, it was GVG, then there was Blackrock Mountain, Grand Tournament, and League of Explorers. So that was our first 5 pieces of content. Some of them are adventures. Well, 3 of them are adventures, 2 of them are expansions, plus the classic set. That's and I mean, Grand Tournament didn't really have anything of anything except for none of your business. So
had Totem Golem, had
Totem Golem.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
But it was a bad set. It was a really bad set.
It made Broken Paladins and Broken Shaman with 1 card for each, and that was basically it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that to me feels like a good number of things to cycle through, because that's where my head goes. Like when you talk about time walking, if I like time walking in WoW from one particular expansion, I have to wait 15, 16 weeks in between for that like 1 week of dungeons. And then if I can't play WoW in that 1 week for whatever reason, then I have to wait another like 16 weeks. And that doesn't feel great. So, I mean, I think having a smaller amount of content that you're cycling through, even if it's like monthly, like 1 month of classic and then next and then GBG and then, and then back to classic again, then you'd have like 2 months a year basically where you could play each type of classic. And I think that would be a really good, like, kind of, I hate to use the C word, cadence.
Listen,
for the content.
we're well past 2018 at this point. The
Okay,
one
I just
Heroes of
didn't
the
know.
Storm fan amongst this show has made peace with the term cadence.
Okay, I just didn't want to like gut punch you out of nowhere.
I just haven't made terms with the K word is all. That's it.
So I think that's an interesting contemplation as well. And I was looking at the pace of balance changes from the current classic we have now in the client until patch 5.0, which was the release of Whispers. In that entire time, in that 2 years, there were 4 total balance changes, and they were all for 1 card or like 1 or 2 cards.
How
There was
the hell? How? I'm grabbing my microphone for effect. How did we do a weekly show about this game back then? How?
It's so an Undertaker, which is the card from Naxxramas that I'm curious how they handle because they leave it unnerfed for the entire time that Nax was out, which they did back then. That deck had a global 60% win rate, Undertaker Hunter, at the time. When we had Luna on Coin Concede last time, then she remembers BGHing Undertakers, which is that's a 1-drop, and it died to
That's wild.
having 7 attack. So they left it legal for 6 months. I don't know if they're going to leave it at how it was printed during Nax. Maybe they have an altered reality thing where like they actually nerf it on time. But if they nerfed now, the way that they nerfed then, 2-mana Deck of Lunacy would be legal and standard for another 3 weeks. Like, we would have had it, not just since Baron's launch, but for all of Baron's, for all of Stormwind up until now, and we would still have it for another 3 weeks from this very moment. We would still have 2-mana Deck of Lunacy, Penflinger that can go face, 2/4 Watch Post, 3/5 Watch Post, 5-mana Jandis, 1/3 Sword would all still be in the game right this very moment for another 3 weeks. Isn't that absurd?
Or there is a potential reality where we just got way more boring cards because they were operating under a different balance mindset. I almost said mandate. That's needlessly extreme. I think this is interesting. I'm glad that they're having this discussion. I haven't thought about Classic in a long time. This would make me think about it again. And while it sounds like we all agree on kind of cutting it off where Alec is at Explorers, I think this Hearthstone game might have something. I think it's got some legs. So I could see a point where it lives long enough that we're like, yeah, I kind of want to go back to the old gods meta. I want to go back to Karazhan. I want to go back to Knights of the Frozen Throne. I'm already there. I would love to replay Ungoro meta. I really, really would. So I personally don't see any reason to limit it there. But if just for the sake of like landing on something to move forward and make changes, yeah, I would draw the line. The first place I draw a line is Explorers as well.
Yep. Time walking would be cool if it was like you could do time walking in Classic separately. You could sequentially advance. Like you could just make it the brawl for the week, and that would be cool. And you could just cycle through and have that be a brawl, and like that would be rad. And maybe just like pre-make a deck for each class, and then and then just make that the brawl, and that would be interesting. Or you can have something more full featured when we get down the road and Hearthstone has more modes and distant in the future, whatever. Like there's a lot of ways to do it. By the way, quick question. You have 10 seconds to answer. What is your favorite WoW time walking?
Wrath of the Lich King.
I don't actually know. Probably Pandaland.
I was about to say, I was like, if I can answer for you, Joss, I bet it's Mist.
Brewery. Let me go back to Stormstout Brewery.
The thing is about Pandaland is that that's also the first expansion that I went into at like max level. So it was my first like set of dungeons I did at level with friends. So I feel like that's probably why I have this like nostalgia feeling for Pandaria. Not to necessarily say it's the best set of time walking dungeons, but
I mean, Pandaria dungeons were pretty dope. Panera's probably
and Legion also is really good. Yeah, but
Yeah.
Legion had
it's
fantastic
not out
dungeons.
yet, though. But so which that was the other thing is I was like, are we saying of all expansions or just the stuff we can currently play in WoW? Because Legion Time Walking hasn't started yet.
I can't wait to do Mythic Plus on Legion again. Cannot wait. Anyways, we're not a WoW podcast.
We are not a WoW
we can
podcast.
be. We can be. Even though I think only one of us is currently playing World of Warcraft.
We're on Sylvanas.
Listen, I'll be back as soon as Wrath of the Lich King Classic drops. I'm gonna be in there immediately. So I guess I'll see you in like 2 years. Yeah. Apparently,
but I do like the idea of time walking, and I do like the idea of time walking with like set decks already given to you in a brawl sort of situation, because I would like it to not necessarily be tied to your collection, because then it just limits the amount of people who can play it, right? Like, because people either dust their collections at the rotation of every standard year, or insert whatever excuse for not having the cards anymore, being newer players and not being around at that time, whatever. They just may not still have the same cards that they had before. They may not play Wild. So I think it's cool if you're going to do a time walking event to make that available to everyone. Like, if for some reason WoW time walking was like, okay, yeah, you can go back and queue for dungeons, but you have to still have the gear in your bank from that expansion to put it on. And if you don't have the gear, you can't do the time walking. That would be a ridiculous task. So it's like, I feel like that's kind of a similar thing for Hearthstone, right? Or like the equivalent in Hearthstone would be like, if you don't have the cards from that time, you can't play. Like, that doesn't feel great. So
yeah,
I like the pre-made decks idea in a brawl.
Yeah. Well, completely shifting gears, Dean admitted that while he loves the idea of Diablo being added to Hearthstone, the team had varying opinions. And also noted that fan response seems to be mostly positive, so they are considering doing it more often. I don't think I'm going to play Mercenaries, so to me it's like irrelevant.
I think that the interesting part of this was kind of confirmation that they are thinking about bringing other Blizzard properties into Hearthstone in various ways. So, whether that's going to be contained in Mercenaries or somehow, being an expansion or an adventure or mini set or whatever, they're floating that idea, which again is a departure from stuff that's said in the past. So I thought that was interesting. I also did think it was interesting that the team had varying opinions. I mean, I totally get that. Hearthstone started as a, Heroes of Warcraft game, right? So not Heroes of Blizzard, not Heroes of a Storm of some kind, So like
the con of Blizzes, maybe?
Like it started with a Warcraft like moniker, right? And focus. And so I can see some Hearthstone purists being like, no, we are Warcraft first and foremost. What are you talking about? Don't put Raynor in Hearthstone. That doesn't make any sense. And
I don't know. Please put Raynor in anything, because StarCraft ain't getting new shit anytime soon. And I love that universe. I'm totally for it. Like I can sit here and make jokes all the time about how, oh boy, I would sure love a game where all of the Blizzard IPs crossed over. Well, doesn't that sound fun and nice? But I legitimately have zero issue with non-Warcraft bits in my Hearthstone. Snarky concerns about Mercenaries aside, you want to give me a Diablo minion in standard Hearthstone? You want to give me a StarCraft hero in Battlegrounds? I am absolutely on board for it.
Yeah, and I think that it opens up the kind of world of minion types, right? And whether we're talking about in standard Hearthstone or if we're talking about over on the Battleground side, and obviously the Mercenaries side, like they could just put whatever mercenaries in they want. But if we're talking about like minion types in modes where minion types matter, then you could have like a Marines minion type, right? And then a Zerg minion type, and it starts to really open things up when you bring in sci-fi and fantasy things from outside of the realm of World of Warcraft. So I think it's an interesting idea, and I want to see them kind of open-mindedly explore it, because it could be really cool.
Can you imagine Soul Juggler Zerg in Battlegrounds? Because that's very plausible I can really see that happening. And in standard, Zeratul will be a really cool rogue card. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah,
ways to
there's
make
a
this
lot
work
of
flavor-wise.
yeah.
Atesh Tabayrak, who's the lead designer on Duels, when Diablo came to Hearthstone and Ixar gave this answer, I believe he quote tweeted it with an eyes emoji, which, as we all know, is confirmation that something is coming. So I could
Obviously.
easily see. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. It's just an emoji. Don't read too
Eyes
much into it.
emoji.
But Josh does a very good eyes emoji. So we could easily see Duels become a place where like non-Hearthstone characters hang out. Because why not? But it's like people can't say that they don't care about duels and then they care about who's in duels. And I think it'd be cool. Maybe Jimmy Rayner's over there. Maybe we build a Tassadar deck. I don't know.
Again, I would really like to advocate for putting non-Warcraft figures in modes that people play.
Man, you guys are just kicking duels while they're down.
I play duels. I'll have you know, and I know this is not a good sales pitch of the format. I am playing original Quest Rogue and duels, and it is very good.
Listen, if you give me like legitimate limited Hearthstone, I will stop crapping on the modes you shouldn't have made. I'll leave them alone.
I don't think it's half of 1/6 doesn't like it's fine. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Ixar also said the current meta is less polarizing statistically than most. Rarely ever any 65% win rate matchups between any meta decks. Rarely.
I didn't know how to take this one because the data that I have access to and this data is not the same data.
I agree. And I was hoping you would take it that way because I was wondering if I was an a-hole for sitting here going, you know what would be really nice with this? Internal stats.
Data.
Internal stats would be really nice alongside this tweet.
Like Tian Ding posts them, but you know, it's I don't know. This is 150 characters. It's not going to give us a ton of information.
You can tweet longer now, by the way.
Oh, okay. I also don't expect them to satisfy our opinions with like a dashboard. Don't expect Dean to be like, oh yeah, here's a bunch of numbers. Like, I believe that what he's saying makes sense in some context. Just this tweet has so little context as to be nearly meaningless. I don't know. My experience has been that there are some key decks in the format that have really, really swingy matchups, like the presence of Quest Shaman and Quest Mage in particular. Both of those have matchup sets like Shaman beats the minion decks and loses to the hand decks, and Mage is the other way around. And I don't know how to look at those two decks and look at the idea the format's supposed to be less polarized. And I don't know where we're supposed to go from there. And I'm sure there's a way to get there, but I haven't figured it out yet.
That's fair.
Well, and he also said that there are rarely any matchups like that. So if and it kind of depends, I think, on again the context of this and what is considered a meta deck. Like if he's looking at 15 to 20 decks in the meta, air quotes, and two of those decks that you just named, Quest Mage, Quest Shaman, have polarized matchups. Most of the decks in the meta don't, because that's like 2 out of 20, right? So it depends on what he considers to be a meta deck. And, you know, like I think that there's a lot of potential wordsmithing and context that makes this quote true to him and not true to you, maybe. But it's really hard without knowing what he considers to be a meta deck to actually make a determination on how much we can get behind this messaging, I guess, if that makes sense.
That's fair. Again, he's probably again, as you pointed out, Hat, and I kind of dumped on. It's Twitter. It's a Twitter AMA. He's trying to speak generally, trying to speak openly and freely and quickly. So you're gonna have less detailed conversation.
Yeah. It's usually when he says data-ish things, I can look at the data that I have accessible as well, looking over in VS and HSR and all that, and I'd be like, yeah, what he said makes sense here. This I can't corroborate based on what I see. Like, it is actually the opposite of what I see. So I'm sure it's right, but usually I can speak to what he's saying, and this time I can't, and I don't know what to do with that.
The way I take it is maybe there's lower number of overall polarized matchups than is typical, because there's clearly, when he says rarely, there's room for 65 plus win rate
for it
matchups.
to happen. Yeah, exactly. And we don't even know if he's looking at number of decks or like percentage of meta decks played. Like we have no idea how he came to this determination, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can interpret data and you can bring stuff in or not, you know, and get an answer. So yeah, like, and I'm not saying that he was trying to skew stats or anything like that. I'm not, nobody angry tweet Ixar and quote me. I'm just saying that, like, you know, there's a lot of, you usually need context to understand statistics, and we don't have any context here. So what he said is perfectly fine given whatever he's looking at inside, but we don't have access to that inside data. So
if you could quote Joss or at Joss in a tweet to Ixar and say, "I can't believe you stand by pineapple on pizza," that would be pretty hilarious, though.
okay, that would be okay.
Yeah, that'd be very funny.
And that is a very polarizing opinion.
It is. It is. Yes.
Yeah. A couple of Battlegrounds things here. Dean mentioned that Battlegrounds cards are some of the hardest to script for the game because their editor hasn't been built with Battlegrounds in mind, which did not come to as a shock to me in the slightest. It's kind of Hearthstone's whole bag, because it is built within the limitations of its engine. And then also that we should see Battlegrounds cosmetics on the paid rewards track, as well as mercenary cosmetics. I think that is perfectly fine. Battlegrounds especially, I just straight up think is smart. It is not horrendously monetized. I think it's a good thing, but I don't think there's anything wrong with putting some more incentive to want to throw some cash Hearthstone's way if you're a Battlegrounds main. And I think putting cosmetics, keyword here being cosmetics, meaning they don't enhance your gameplay in any way besides looking awesome, looking at you, Tiki Rag. I think that's a smart decision. And frankly, I would like more Battlegrounds cosmetics.
Well, there's 2 more bundles in the store right now. But I think that plus Bob too. Bob in a jar.
Boy, this is the this is the first time I think in the history of Hearthstone where I wish I only played one mode, because if I just played Hearthstone, that'd be so easy to convince myself. Like, oh, it's just Battlegrounds. It's fun. It's all I play. I might as well throw $20 here, $20 there. It's the only mode I play. I don't throw that much money at it. But when you play Standard 2, the cost of those bundles, it dings a little.
A little, for sure. And I think that, like, probably I would say that they have this year's rewards pretty much mapped out. They created mercenaries as these characters that we're going to go through all the way, you know, from the start of the standard year all the way through. We were going to see their stories in single player content and everything else. And those characters are the ones who have been featured as hero portraits in the Tavern Pass. That's going to finish as of, you know, the end of the standard year. So I'm assuming that's when we're going to start seeing, like, with the start of the next standard year, probably a little bit of diversity. Mercenaries will have been out for a little while at that point in time. I think that's when we're going to start seeing some diversity in the rewards offered in that track. So I would expect to see this kind of stuff coming, you know, kind of next spring with that. So not the next reward track for whatever the next expansion is, but the first expansion and the first reward track of the new standard year. I think we'll start to see Battlegrounds and mercenary stuff in there.
Bring it.
2022.
Yeah,
March or April 2022.
Somehow we're going to make it, y'all.
Yeah. I'm optimistic. I hope that was convincing.
I thought mine was dark. Your response to my call was darker. Yeah. XR also
year, man.
Yeah, also said there are balance changes coming to BGs, which normally wouldn't be news, but given the current state of Battlegrounds, many, myself included, believe changes are needed. Maybe 2 weeks ago, depending on who you talk to.
Garrett, will we talk to you about this later in the show?
Oh, 100%. Dean also said most achievements should be completable in a predictable time frame, but they were okay with having some hard-to-finish achievements. Yeah, it's a scale, right? Some achievements are super easy, some achievements literally cost money, and some achievements are hard as butt.
Yeah, I think he said Oh My Yog was the Oh My Yog achievement where you had to kill someone with Oh My Yog turning into, like, the spell from an Oh My Yog turning into something that killed your opponent, and he said that was way too far.
Yeah,
I
too
think he said
hard.
it was over the line of like he was more diplomatic. I said way too far. But what's interesting to me, I've had a bunch of conversations about this particular topic this week. I feel like achievement hunting is an additional hidden mode for the game that some people like main. They go crazy for this stuff the second the set comes out. I'm so glad it's in the game that people can hunt it down. Um, and I honestly think it's a good idea that it's not in casual because that would just turn casual into like you would just get this laundry list of free XP chores that you had to do every expansion. Instead, you have to make the choice, do I really want to do it? And then you either convert one of the modes to your casual or you go to duels or arena or whatever. But it becomes a meaningful choice as do I want to do this or not? I personally don't do it, but some people are all about it. I think it's a big addition to the game in a way that I didn't expect this to happen.
This is one of those things that I do not personally align with, and yet I find really fascinating when I talk to people who are all about it.
Yeah.
Like
I do it.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. I love achievement hunters. I love talking to achievement hunters. I love listening to them just get super stoked on hunting achievements. I could not be less interested in. Like, I really don't like achievements. I know you can turn them off on consoles. I never take the time to figure it out, and I absolutely hate them in my like Naughty Dog cinematic experience games.
Oh my god, I love them. Oh my god, I
love crying watching so and so die, and then ding. Yeah, I love the achievement golf club to the effing face. Thank you so much for really just putting a cherry on top of this emotional baggage that I'm witnessing.
I will agree that I think that like in other video games, not necessarily Hearthstone, but I mean Hearthstone had this problem when it would give you the achievements, but without you actually like before you flipped your cards in a pack opening, it was like legendary collector, and you're like, damn it. So there was definitely spoilers, and I don't think that in other video games you should have achievements just for getting through story chapters, because again, like you say, like you're going through, especially now in a lot of video games, there's a lot of very emotional single player content with these great stories, and all of a sudden you're like, shebang, fireworks, you did an achievement, and it's like, okay, but also, this bad sad thing is happening. Like,
bad sad, I like
emotions. That. Yeah, bad sad.
Sad.
But in Hearthstone in particular, especially for me, because now that I've done the whole legend thing and I filled that card back slot, I don't feel necessarily compelled, again, because I also have the whole expansion worth of cards just through completing the rewards track and getting enough gold and whatever. I find it really fun to give myself another goal within the Hearthstone I'm already playing. So, I mean, I had like a list of all the BG heroes I didn't have at first place and was like going through and picking ones that I didn't have the achievements for instead of just picking the ones that would win me the lobby. And I find that very fun because it's like an added extra challenge. And it's same with the like using achievements to guide my deck choices. I go look at my achievements and say like, oh, I need to summon 2 more totems. I'll go play a shaman game, stuff like that. So I think it kind of gives my play a little bit of direction when I don't have just a straight up like leaderboard idea to shoot for.
I think that's rad. That's a thing that you lock onto. I just, for whatever reason, achievements never really done it for. I think when they first came to Xbox, I chased some Halo achievements, and then I was like, why am I just trying to stick people in Halo multiplayer and literally ruining the experience for the rest of my team? Because I'm not getting kills because I'm just trying to get this stupid grenade achievement. But yeah,
I will say I do not have Oh My Yogg. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with having like crazy hard achievements, because at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know. I'm clearly not the target demo, but.
I like difficult achievements. I like to have to think about it. I don't like it being just a part of my normal gaming experience, whatever that is. Like I want it to be something that I have to work for. I mean, I don't even necessarily really like the collection achievements just because I'm like, collecting cards is what I do in Hearthstone to play the game. So, like I would rather it just be about crafting a cool deck or playing a specific thing or a specific way, as opposed to just like stuff I do anyway.
Yeah.
But
there are some that stand out though, because you can incentivize a bunch of different behavior. I like the idea of the go and get it behavior, like you're talking about, like give a person a goal and then they go achieve the goal. But also you can recognize unusual successes. Like the 12-win achievement in a row,
Mm,
I think is huge. Even like normally when I play Hearthstone, I don't win 12 games in a row, but also it's the sort of thing that when you get it, you get to show it off. And that also has a lot of value for a unique moment of success playing the way you normally would, but showing like I was really in the top of my game, or oh, I got so lucky. But that creates a story that you get to share. And so
yeah.
that kind of thing in the game is also pretty cool. I agree that collection achievements are just click homework. Like either I deal with a red exclamation mark for the rest of my life, or I maximize my micro by just click, 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 and you can't even spacebar it. When I
Yeah.
open packs, you can just jam the spacebar, but what collection achievements are like, no, you're clicking after all. Nice try.
Yeah, and I know that they have also mentioned, I don't know if it was in an XR AMA or if it was somewhere else, but I know that they have mentioned that they recognize that collecting the achievement points is definitely a pain point and needs to be addressed. So hopefully we'll see something sooner rather than later. I imagine it'll probably be with the tick over of an expansion and the addition of new achievements and stuff. We'll probably get something in there that maybe is just clicking a space bar or putting in a button that says, collect all or something. Who knows? But yeah, they have recognized that that's a pain point. So
Joss, is it a pain point for you that Monk is not in active development since Pandaria was already mentioned today?
yeah, I mean, they've said this, and I find it funny that it still comes up in like every single Q&A that we see with them, whether it is an XR AMA on Twitter or if it's any other interview or like everybody always asks about monks, and they say every time there are no monks, and every time we still say okay, but it's been 2 weeks, so how about now?
It's because they better be working on Death Knight first, or I swear to God, that's the moment I exit. If Monk comes out before Death Knight, I'm out.
Okay,
It'll be Death Knight first. It's monks are patient. We know this. They'll wait.
Okay,
Cool.
that's fair. But yeah, I think that they did. So that comes from the confirmation that they will do Pandaria at some point. But yeah, right now monks are not in active development, and I'm pretty sure we're not going to see a Pandaria expansion without the addition of monks. Like, they've got to do it, right? It's coming eventually. They made freaking demon hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't do Pandaria without monks. Like that will
Yeah.
be the launch expansion for monks, right? Like
It
that's
was
just,
literally the first card back.
it was.
The first card back we got was Pandaria. Now, we were technically playing Pandaria in World of Warcraft at the time. So it was a bit of a tie-in. But
Yeah.
Was 2014 still MOP?
yes.
Gosh. I feel like counting the rings in the tree right now. How many expansions is Hearthstone? Just go to the sponsor read. I don't want to
Yep.
think about this. I'm too
Yeah,
old.
hey,
Yeah.
do you want to think about saving money while you shop online with an easy and free browser extension? Is that something you'd like to
Yes.
think about, Hat?
I would. I'm thinking about it right now.
I don't have to think about it because I already have Honey installed on my browser, which you can get by going to joinhoney.com/TAC. Listen, I know you want to sit there and just take a breath after that seamless transition, but really, we just got to talk about the fact that we all shop online. Literally, all of us do it. There's probably like one person right now. We found the one person who listens to podcasts but doesn't shop online going, but I say to you, I will convert you by the end of this because I'm going to tell you can save money shopping online passively with the Honey browser extension. You don't need to curse the promo code field anymore. It just sits there taunting you. You're like, I could go to a search engine. I could try and find a promo code. I could put in 7 of them and it could go out of date and you can get frustrated. Or Honey can do all of that for you. You don't need to manually search for coupon codes anymore. Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. It tries multiple codes and it goes, ooh, this one saved more money. Let's use that one instead of this one. It's great. And it supports over 30,000 stores online. As I mentioned, I am in the market for sunglasses again. And when I say as I mentioned on previous episodes. I definitely didn't drop sunglasses out of the breast pocket of a tiki shirt and scratch the ever-living hell out of the lenses on asphalt. That definitely 100% did not happen.
It's also a very specific example, though.
Yeah, totally.
Down bottom shirt.
Yes. And I definitely didn't, just before the show, go to my favorite sunglasses website and go, are there any coupons for this dope pair of bright pink mirror finish aviators? Is that a thing I can get? And Honey went, yes, it's a thing you can get. Here, it's $7.50. Would you like $7.50 off? As Jocelyn Carney puts on a pair of pink aviators, oh my God. We didn't plan this.
You.
I want it known we did not plan this. Yeah.
I was just like, of course that's what you want to buy. I have some right here. We're the same.
Yeah. So it's great. It works. I have had it installed for over a year now. I've saved money on pizza, sunglasses, shoes. I always need an excuse to buy new shoes. So go check it out because Honey has found its over 17 million members, over $2 billion in savings. If you do not already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out on free savings. It's literally free and installs in just a few seconds. And by getting it, not only will you be doing yourself a solid, but you will be supporting the Angry Chicken in the process. So go get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/TAC. That's joinhoney.com/TAC. Make sure you get the join in there. We thank them for their support. We thank you for supporting the brands that support us here at the Angry Chicken. And now, before we talk about Battlegrounds, we want to check in with Alec. One Alec Dawson, you should be following on Twitter at GW_Alec, likes to give us a schedule. And back on August 25th, Alec did exactly that, saying that on August 31st, 2 Warlock changes were coming in. They did. And then from the 31st to the 10th, they were going to be evaluating the meta. And then on September 10th, they would be deciding what changes would be needed, which means last week there was a meeting. There was a meeting somewhere. Somewhere on the interwebs, a virtual Hearthstone meeting took place. And I bet certain people had opinions. And then later in September, Alex said that they were going to decide what changes to go live, and in parentheticals, BGs included. Alec tweeted this past week that this is still the plan, saying that previous changes were an addendum on initial round. Next full patch was created specifically for balance changes, talking about many things, nerfs and buffs. Approach to wild is act in extreme cases. Current case, probably clearing that bar. So there's hope for you yet, dear wild Hearthstone players.
The one of them that listens to this show.
Oh, we got plenty of wild players hanging out. The wild chat in our Discord has been active, to say the least.
That is true. That is true.
And you can multi-mode right now. I've been multi-moding. I think I'm Diamond and Wild right now. I've played decks that aren't Warlock. My opinion is that Warlock should be nerfed. Not because of that I haven't been playing it, but also because there's a lot of Warlock. There's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to unpack in the information that we have from Alec here. I will also note there's extra information, as there always is. Our buddy Deck Tech, who used to guest on the show before he worked for Blizzard. We knew him before he was cool, no big deal.
I had a great dinner with him after the last BlizzCon where we talked about Star Wars, funny enough, not anything from BlizzCon, because that's what happens at the end of BlizzCon. You want to talk about anything else.
Yes. And you want to eat in the place that isn't the Hilton lobby.
Yes, we did it at the Marriott, which I wouldn't recommend. It's very expensive. I've made that mistake multiple times.
The last dinner I had with Deck Tech at BlizzCon, which was the next BlizzCon, which is the BG's BlizzCon, we went to Denny's and we put a mobile recorder in the middle of the table with all 6 of us, and it was really great. Anyways, he works for Blizzard now. We're just letting you all know how cool we are secondhand by being associated with him. Joss is the only one with dignity here. So he said that just be aware, it probably takes a full work week to get patch notes together. And probably the card changes too. They have to get all the information together, put it all in the notes, get them reviewed and approved. Also, they have to send those approved notes out for localization, which is a couple of days. And they have to localize the data inside Hearthstone. They have to translate all the cards if they rework any of the text. That's why when Alec talked about the previous changes, which was Stealer and Flesh Giant again, he said that those were just number changes because it was a short patch window with no localization. If you don't have translation of the cards in the game, the only thing you can change are numbers. That's why it was just a nudge to Flesh Giant and moving Stealer Souls to 6 mana 4 power, which is what they do to cards they want to send out to a farm. It's if you're moved to 6 mana 4 power, then you're just not a card anymore. That's just what happens. Yeah. Cornelius Rome's farm upstate somewhere. So they couldn't do much more, but also that was not meant to be the nerf that saved Wild. The next round of nerfs are coming. Gonna be constructed stuff. Also, I will bet there will be buffs, and I will bet there will be buffs to Warrior. There will be absolutely some nerfs, probably to multiple classes in Standard. Definitely cards in Wild. Specifically, Ixar, when asked about Wild, mentioned Crystallizer as a big outlier. And I think that's a good idea to change that card because it's currently unbelievable. It deals your hero 5 damage and gives you 5 armor. And the Warlock quest is damage your own hero. So Crystallizer completes basically an entire phase of the quest, and then when you're post-quest, it domes your opponent for 5 and gains you 5 life, which is not something that should happen for 1 mana. And then also Battlegrounds, as Garrett has alluded to multiple times with Clenched Teeth, there are some things that need to be adjusted. I would guess if I had to pick 2 cards more than any, it would probably be Leapfrogger and Doomsayer, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
I don't.
Real quick, have they? It's being asked in chat, and I was curious too. Blastmeister and Cthulhu has been fixed. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That was fixed about 3 days after it was discovered or so. There was, by the way, Ixar played the thing on ladder, and Reddit went crazy because they saw him playing it. Like, oh my god, I can't believe that it's playing it. But he tweeted about it and he explained he played it because he said their data is about a day behind. So he just wanted to jump on ladder and see, like, do I need to stop the presses and get this fixed today, or can it wait a couple more days? And the answer was it can wait a couple more days. They got it fixed. They hotfixed it. It's all set. The deck was, I mean, it was obviously unpleasant to have a bug in a semi-competitive deck for a few days, but also it was not particularly overpowered, and we're talking like 72 hours total. And if you want to beat it, you just put a freezing trap in your deck, and it gets pretty funny. And there were many screenshots on the day of the hotfix where players played Maxima, hit their opponents for 8, and conceded, and that was worth it, as far as I'm concerned.
Nice. All right. Well, let's get into the alluded conversation about Battlegrounds by moving into our Battlegrounds segment.
Have a good battle, friend.
So yeah, Battlegrounds. People have opinions. Not everyone agrees. This is not ubiquitous. All right. If you follow Nicolina, you know at least one person that is really happy with the state of Battlegrounds right now.
Me too.
John's too. Listen, overall, I'm having a good time. I want to be very clear that we have absolutely had infinitely worse metas than what we are currently experiencing in Battlegrounds. Can there be some improvements? Absolutely, yes. There can always be improvements. Can there be some very specific improvements to clear outliers? Yes. Also, yes. Yes, there are Froggy and Doomsayer. It's problems. It's a little much. It is a little much. I cannot come to terms with what a riveting hypocrite I am, because I love playing Froggy Comp. It's so much fun. It is so satisfying when you pull it off. And yet, if I lose to Froggy Comp one more time, I'm going to need a new monitor. I'm going to have to go to joinhoney.com/TAC, install that browser add-on, and shop for a new monitor and hope to God I find a coupon.
First of all, it was seamless. Second of all, I have an analogy for you. Froggy Comp is pre-nerf Quest Mage in Battlegrounds. You love hitting flow on 2, but you don't like getting flowed and dying.
No,
it's very, very similar.
You don't. The problem is, this isn't constructed. You may not run into Mage. And in Battlegrounds, you also may not run into Beasts. But also in the same lobby, you may run into multiple Beast players in the same effing lobby. I had a game today where 3 players hit fully functional Froggy comps. 3 players found a Baron, 3 players found at least 1 Froggy, and 3 players found a Macaw. They were ready to go, and I was furious.
And I think that that's kind of the crux of this issue, I think, and this is also why I think it's a pretty easy change, is I think the Frog is just 1 tier too low. There's too many of them. So too many people are able to not only get them, but get golden versions. And, it allows more than 1 or 2 players to get a functional comp, which kind of almost guarantees them a third or fourth place finish, even if they kind of brick later on in the game, it doesn't really matter because they've been able to get carried to a win by that comp. And you might end up with 3 of the 4 top 4 players playing frogs. And not even just beasts, because there are other ways to play beasts, but like frogs specifically. And so I think that because they are a tier 2 minion, that's the problem there. They just need to bump it up to a tier 3, and then that'll be fine, because then it's going to come later in the game. And also there's going to be less of them, period. So, and a whole other tier adds more to the pool, which means they're also going to come up less often just because the pool is bigger when you're doing your rolls. So like just bumping it up a tier, I think fixes the frog problem.
I am for the most part with you on that. I think that would be a really good first step.
Because it's still super fun. And when you hit it, it's fun to play.
I would make one other change. Make Macaw not able to hit itself.
Ah, okay.
Oh,
yeah, I see.
Okay.
Because when Macaw hits itself, that's when you get the infinite Macaw. It just leaps on itself over and over again. Like leapfrog, you have to leap over something else. That's just how leapfrogging works. So it shouldn't be able to.
Yourself.
You know what, Hat? Go leap yourself.
I don't. Is that an insult?
I don't even know, but it's a show title.
No, I believe in you. I believe in you. Go and grow. That's what I'm telling you to do, Hat. I believe in you.
Believe in me?
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Terrible.
yeah. I'm really overall, I'm really happy with beasts. There are multiple ways to successfully draft beasts. First place, most cases you're going to want to go froggy, but overall, there's a lot of great diversity. As a matter of fact, I'm somewhat replying to a tweet that I received just before the show that said they were saying that they just played a Battlegrounds with top 5 was all beasts. I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing, especially if they're different drafts. I think that's healthy. I think more minion types should strive to achieve that level of diversity in what you can draft and how you can draft. Mm-hmm. So I don't see that as a bad thing, but Leapfrogger is absolutely a problem. What is also a massive, massive problem, and the only thing I've been able to beat Froggies with today, and I even tweeted about it. You can go see my very mean-spirited and laughing maniacally victory over a Leapfrog player is Doomsayer and Demons, and what that allows you to do. Doomsayer is just so much free value. This is, if you are unfamiliar, or you don't have a visual reference in front of you, dear audio listeners, that is the tier 3 minion is Impatient Doomsayer. It's a 2/6. But what's important is the Avenge 3, add a random demon to your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that could be fixed if it was just Avenge more? Like Avenge 4? Because I feel like when I get them, I'm getting a few demons, but if it was Avenge even just 4, like that one more, then that's going to deny me 1, maybe even 2 of the cards that I get in my hand, just because it's more chances for my Doomsayer to die before the Avenge goes off, right?
Yeah, I think
like
that
3 seems very low, especially when there are so many demons that summon other little demons that are 1/1s that die fast, right? You're not paying a big cost for that Avenge.
Because it's not Avenge Demon. Demons don't have to die to trigger the Avenge.
No, demons don't have to die.
Being at tier 3, it is in a very powerful position for high rolling into Doomsayer. So if you find a Doomsayer, let's call it tier 5 or turn 5, which is when most of us level up to tier 3.
Are at 3.
Yeah. Or you triple into it on tier 2. Regardless of what you're drafting, if there's token comps, you probably have some tokens. So it's like the way Battlegrounds is played is conducive to having a lot of little things on board when you would what we would consider high roll into Doomsayer. So whether you're demons or not, you're kind of already at a board state to reap the benefits of Doomsayer, because like you've got a bunch of kitties or you've got a bunch of Murloc tokens. Like those are things that are gonna die, guaranteed. You're gonna get at least 1 demon off of this, if not maximum value, which could be 2 to 3 depending on your board state. Very, very easily. It asks basically nothing of you. And also at 2/6, like the 2 attack is nothing. Isn't all that exciting. But with 6 health, it's gonna stick around at 3. Like this is just such a good card. I do think bumping it up to 4 is concerning because of the whole, like, its value is inconsistent. Like, at the end of the day, at worst, it's 1 gold.
Yeah, this is the one that I don't feel like it should actually be bumped up a tier. Like, it feels like it comes at the point of the game when it should.
Yes.
Gentle Ginny comes a lot later and is still pretty decent on 5 or 6.
Right, but you're always guaranteed, because it has taunt, you're always guaranteed that it's going to show up, and it has the possibility of super high rolling, because by that time you're going to be a 5 or 6, right? Because you're either tripling into your 6, or so, like, the range of stuff it can get is just better because your tavern tier's higher.
And they were clearly,
and it goes off every time. You're guaranteed for that to happen, right? It has taunt, it has to die. There's nothing.
With a very very extenuating circumstances. Like,
well, yeah, if your 4/5 taunt isn't dying, you're already winning, and you don't need that extra card.
Yeah,
like,
it's
fair.
Doomsayer is so tricky because it's such, like, you have this narrow band of, you don't want to, if you lower the health and it just dies, it's really unsatisfying to play. If you move it up too late in the game to the point where you lose combat because you're playing it and going for value, then it's unsatisfying and doesn't see play. Maybe it sees play at 4, maybe it doesn't. Nudging up the avenge value does make the most sense to me because you really have to work for it. Like, you really have to play your icky imps and whatever, and your and like reborn minions.
Yeah, as long as we're not going up to
less.
I was gonna say, as long as we're not going up to avenge 7, because then I may fold.
Oh, I see. We're in Bat Country.
There we are. Yeah.
There's a band named Avenge 7.
I'm getting booed by the chat room right now. Thank you, Kashatar.
I don't know what's happening right now.
Yeah, there was clearly a sub theme of heavy desire to manipulate the Battlegrounds economy in this major update. It's just that Doomsayer was really the winner in terms of that sub theme, and things like Tony Two Tusk and Nosy Looter were very much the losers in that sub theme.
There's a 4-star 3/5. I forget her name. I think it has Avenge 3, and you get a random battle cry. And
yes, yeah.
And nobody plays it. It is nearly the same.
We are in a meta where Menagerie kind of sucks, and battle cries are worth more in Menagerie metas. Demons are in a good place for the first time in a while, which I think is why we don't hear as many people complaining about the Doomsayer problem, even though I think it is arguably a bigger problem than Leapfrog, if not equal. But yeah, like, if either of these, and I think both of these are going to get adjusted, I think we're very likely to find ourselves back in a Menagerie possible meta, in which case I think the minion you're talking about, which I'm failing miserably at finding as I scan through Battlegrounds cards, I think that's going to become better.
It's a harpy.
Witchwing Nest Matron, or Nest Matron as I like to call it.
Rolls off the tongue.
Oh yeah. We could just call it Nest Matron or Witchwing. But yeah, that's Avenge 3, add a random battle cry minion to your hand. Yeah, I think that has way more to do with Menagerie not being good than it does. Yeah.
Well, I think it's partly Menagerie not being as good, but I think it's also partly just that demons tend to synergize with playing other demons. Either you have the 1/3, the pink boy from tier 1, and playing demons is going to make him grow, or you've got your green guy, the fell dude 6/6 that when you play
Big
demons,
Big Fernal.
Yeah, that when you play or summon demons, then he's growing. Like, there just is some kind of inherent synergy to playing demons on your demons. Like, you're gonna get an extra bonus, whereas like with battle cries, it may or may not be something that's actually good for you. Yeah. So then it's just 1 gold instead of like 1 gold and a buff.
Yeah, Big Fernal can finally work. Like, it never really worked. Now it works. However, I think a big part of that is Doomsayer.
And I think the chat room is also pointing out the demon pool is smaller and can often get triples.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If anyone goes to my Twitter right now, scroll back, I think 2 tweets, look at how many cards are in my hand. Because I had a golden Doomsayer, and I just, at a certain point, gave up. I was just, Bob, take the wheel, and I won the game. I won the lobby. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And tier 3 versus tier 4 as well. A big difference is that on tier 3, you're likely to still have your Acolyte of Cthulhu, which is the linchpin to so much of what's happening in BGs right now. And boy, is that good with Avenge cards. Oh, it's so crazy with Avenge cards. Just the Taunt Reborn means your Doomsayer never dies and never goes away without giving you at least 1 minion, usually 2, because the Acolyte counts for 2 of those deaths.
Yeah. Yeah, you have that and any tokens. You found like an Alley Cat. You found what is it? Tide Hunter. Yeah,
or like Icky Imp. Icky
Or
Imp's
the
really,
Icky
really
Imp,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, Icky Imp's great. That is a card that I am like convinced does not actually exist. My opponents get them and I do not.
I always get the 2/2, the health
The trickster.
jumps, and I'm like, no,
The trickster.
I want the tokens to spawn. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That being said, Trickster's
it's
so
nice.
good for tripling because no one's taking it. And sometimes, that health lands on the perfect minion and you just like rock the mid game. But yeah, so often it's just a dud.
Yeah. It's nice to have the 2/2, but the other one is much more important.
Ugh.
Yeah. Or you know what? Just take Doomsayer and you'll triple all the demons. You'll be fine.
There you go.
Garrett didn't acknowledge my pun, which is probably better for everybody.
The internet may have hiccuped on my end while you were talking, and I was just trying to keep the flow going.
Oh, I'll emphasize it. Important.
Well, now I'm just questioning inviting you on the show.
That's kind of what I'm going for.
Cool. Boo!
I'm gonna have to compress that boo. That was very loud.
Was it? Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Got a little close.
It was worth it. It's fine.
My old
You can
fashioned
be
is
close to me,
empty.
Garrett. It's okay. Yeah.
Well, now it's just.
Hey, we have some emails.
We did get some emails, and we should talk about them right now.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello?
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh,
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com. And if you are a lovely, lovely patron of this here program, you don't need to worry about it. You can just message us right there in the Discord or on Patreon. If you really want to send me a letter, let me know. It's been done before. Looking at you, Rational Pie. Anyways, Grubby starts us off today. Ooh, my favorite Warcraft 3 pro player. Different Grubby. What do you recommend for someone who's been ... Hearthstone adjacent for a long while? What should I do to get back into the game? There's been so much added, a good thing, that I feel lost. For context, the last time I played, dragons were the new hotness in Battlegrounds. I'd love to achieve my dream of hitting Legend and Standard. I've been playing since Coin Scrub equals Concede. Thanks in advance, Joss, Garrett, and Ridiculous Hat. You've mentioned 2 game modes, which makes this harder.
3 questions. This is like a lot of questions.
Yeah,
Because
it is.
there's a
Also,
very
Dragons
different...
being the new hotness in Battlegrounds wasn't all that long ago. Like it was
18 months.
a while, yeah, but not like that.
It was
long ago.
before
Not
Demon
like
Hunter was
Old
in the game.
Gods. Yeah,
I'm just
okay,
saying,
that's fair.
before Demon Hunter,
That's
it was
fair.
before COVID.
Yeah, also that.
It was before, our world was upended. That's why it feels longer ago than it actually was. Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is, what do you really want to do? Because you mentioned Battlegrounds and you mentioned Standard. So, because it kind of differs for either. Battlegrounds is really no barrier. You're not at any noteworthy disadvantage from any other player unless
Especially
you don't have
right
perks.
now because of the refresh, right? So like everyone's still kind of learning right now. So if you're going in at a low MMR, then this is like a really good time. It's like basically like a standard year rotation right now in Battlegrounds.
Yeah, I disagree, but your point still stands because everyone's actually just trying to get frogs.
Well, yes.
And so with that knowledge, my advice, like legitimately, as joking as this sounds, is draft anything but frogs unless it serves you frogs on an actual platter, and you'll find a decent comp and probably make top 4. Or you're in a lobby that doesn't have beasts, and congratulations, you're in interesting Battlegrounds territory.
So, like, I'm looking at this question, and there's a bunch of stuff. It's because you're asking the second paragraph. What got my wheels turning. It says, "I'd love to achieve my dream of hitting legend in standard." Okay, so getting back into the game and a ranked goal are very different things, extremely different things. The most important thing you can do to get back into Hearthstone is find a way that you can have fun with Hearthstone. And a hard ranked goal, especially after a long break from Hearthstone, is the way to not have fun in Hearthstone. So I'd
That is
recommend
true.
against that because playing because you want to play is great. Playing because you need to win will make you angry. Angry bad. It's a video game. Play games because they're fun.
Preach.
So, yes. So, if you want to get back into Hearthstone, I recommend if you're an Angry Chicken patron, join the Discord. It's very pleasant. A lot of nice people there will talk to you. You can explain what you're doing and all that. If you're
There's also
Battlegrounds,
lots and lots and lots of advice and deck lists in there. And not just
yes.
deck lists that are ripped straight off of HS Replay, but stuff that, people have put together and are having fun and success with that maybe aren't meta even adjacent in some cases. Like sometimes I read those lists and I'm like, you're playing what in the who now?
People just do what they want. And that's
Yeah.
cool. Like,
What
I'm
in
all
the
about
who now?
They're the ones playing and finding the fun.
I'm all about deck list creation as expression of creativity. People playing the way they want to play. All about it. Big fan. As long as there's not an assumption of if I play my way, I will get ranked success because of that. Because sometimes you have to play on your terms. Sometimes you have to play in the game's terms. And if you want to progress in the game, you have to play in the game's terms. Another topic for another time. So if you want to get back into BGs, like Garrett and Josh said, there's no barrier to entry. The best thing to do if you want to get into BGs, press play and play BGs. Very fun. Enjoyable game mode. Strongly recommended. You do not need to spend any money. Also, every so often, you'll notice a red exclamation mark on the second icon on your screen, on the home screen. Click that. When you click it, you'll get free gold. Do that. Free gold is good. You want that. If you want to get back into standard, when you log back in, you should have gotten a free deck. If you're not sure which one you're supposed to take, ask in the Angry Chicken Discord or tweet us or ask your Hearthstone playing friends, whatever. Lots of ways to figure that out. All the lists are posted somewhere. You can pick basically any of them.
Those actually get refreshed each expansion, right?
Correct. And they're usually, what I've found is they're usually meta decks from the previous expansion. They don't typically include cards from the new expansion because they might nerf them and because they want you to open packs for the new expansions. They usually are about an expansion behind, but they're still competitive, still viable. Right. They will get you back in and get you started. And also, if you haven't played in over a year, the auto deck builder is much better now than it was before. Feel free to just go and pick a class, click build. It'll build you the best standard deck possible out of your cards. You're welcome to do that. And just play and just see what happens. And obviously, Hearthstone always is a little bit easier when you have the helpful friend thing, like all card games, helpful friends that can guide you in a direction go a long way. That social element's a big thing. It's not in the client. But if you're just looking to get started, go on HS Replay and just click decks and look at bronze through gold, pick a class you want to play, and pick one of the decks. Bronze through gold is not typically a good way to measure the strength and health of a meta. If you're looking for someone that's trying to just get back in the game, you'll find something there that's working for people that are similarly situated to you. That'll be good enough for now. Don't go crazy crafting stuff. Make substitutions with what you have. Build what you have, and then let the game finish the deck for you, and just get on ladder and play and see if you're having a good time and enjoy yourself. Go in the rewards track, click some stuff. The game throws a lot of stuff at you now. If you were playing, if it was March 2020, gosh, the halcyon days. If you were last playing back then, the rewards track will give you so much more stuff than you are used to. Just let it
because we
pile
didn't
up
even
and sit
have
there.
the rewards track at that point in time, right?
We didn't even have duplicate protection for non-legendary rarities.
There you go.
Yeah. So like, it'll just give you stuff. Play your tavern brawls. Try some of the solo content. Like it's all there. A lot of those give you packs. It's something to do. There's a lot of different ways to get in there, but just let the game build something for you and play. And then if you're looking for more involvement and to catch up more, and especially if you're looking to get to that legend rank, that's going to take a lot of time. I would worry more about getting used to what Hearthstone is doing than setting a ranked goal. But just talk to people about it. Watch some streams, hang out in Discords, check in and see what's working for other people. But I would focus more on just getting back into the standard environment more so than saying I'm going to set a hard ranked goal.
I don't disagree with a damn thing you just said. Like, find the fun first and foremost. And if you're finding the fun with the goal of being increasing your win rate, like you're gonna make headway. Unless you're an absolute savant at deck building, then you can be like super original and still win. But that's rare, to say the least. Joss, who's our next question come from?
Our next question comes from Pi. This is a little bit of a short one. How much is too much to spend on a computer game for you personally? I feel like this is the key to this question for us personally. Everyone's going to have a different answer to this question. But he goes on to say you can give it in terms of monthly or yearly cost if it's an ongoing game like Hearthstone. Actually, make it any video game. So for me, it's kind of different depending on if it's like an ongoing game or a game as a service versus like a single player experience. For me, if I'm going to play like a AAA single player thing, I've kind of wrapped my head around and accepted the fact that I'm going to be paying somewhere around $80 and I'm okay with that. Like if I'm going to be playing the next Assassin's Creed or something and it's just this big single player world for me to explore, that's kind of my line. I know that their, next gen stuff is going up. My problem becomes when you have an experience like that, but then they throw extra stuff in it and like microtransactions and stuff. Then I get a little bit sad because I feel like I'm very much the kind of person who's like, I want to pay once and I want to play the thing, which is also why like I buy my pre-order for Hearthstone, I pay once and I play the thing. And I think for me personally, especially with the rewards track, I'm finding that now one pre-order, like Garrett said, last time I too only bought the big pre-order. With that and the gold that I got from the Tavern Pass previously, I was able to fill out my collection and I basically had the whole expansion in the first week. So it's at a point now where I'm kind of spending about the cost of a AAA single player title every few months to play Hearthstone, and I play Hearthstone more than almost any other game, Dead by Daylight being the only other one. DBD is actually like beyond my Hearthstone and my WoW time now.
Wow.
Yeah, it goes like DBD, Hearthstone, WoW.
Have you started DBD content, or are you trying to keep it fun and not ruin it for yourself?
Honestly, I've been like toying with the idea of doing DBD content, but I don't feel like anybody, like there's already so many amazing DBD content creators that I follow that I just kind of play the game and hang out in their communities.
Fair.
Yeah.
So right before Hearthstone, I played a lot of Magic, and I spent around $40 to $50 a month playing Magic. And so really that equates out to be coming in like just under $500 a year if I'm more at the $40 mark than the 50, obviously. So I do try. I do not always succeed to keep my Hearthstone budget at around $500 a year. Because it is my go-to card game now. It used to be Magic.
And I think that that's always going to be part of the equation, right? Like if it's something you're playing and you're enjoying a lot to the point that maybe you're not spending money on other things, like if you think of it in terms of like an entertainment budget, and it is something that you're playing 3, 4, 5 times a week, and maybe not going out to the movie theater or, like not going out to dinners or whatever,
Please
like
go to the movie theater.
Okay, yeah, I go to the movie theater. I went to the movie theater.
I've been twice
Talk
since
about Shang-Chi after the
Year?
show.
Huh?
We'll talk about Shang-Chi after the show.
We will.
But also do whatever you're personally comfortable with.
Yes.
Yes.
But my point is that, if you think of it in terms of like your time spent, your level of enjoyment, and as more of an overall entertainment budget, then maybe that opens up the conversation a little bit more, because I like to personally reward people making content that I'm enjoying and that's entertaining me. So I will always choose to pay real money for things that are going to keep servers running. So I buy cosmetics in Battlegrounds. I buy cosmetics in Dead by Daylight. I buy mounts in Warcraft. Like I put extra in assuming others will play for free because I want to see the game continue.
Yeah,
So
we're
my
also
budget
in.
as a result is larger, I think, than many. And playing games is also what I do, period.
Yeah, it's a major hobby for all three of us, and also all three of
Yes.
us are in a very, very specific scenario where we make money from covering this game.
Yes,
So that also
is true.
Switching to Hearthstone once we launched the Patreon was great. Like, it's not a joke. It literally is like, oh, cool. It's a business expense now. So
We're about as biased as it gets.
Yeah.
However, I recommend viewing investment in a game, especially a live service game like Hearthstone, as dollars in, time out. Your possession that you get out of Hearthstone, this is basically what you're saying, Josh. Slightly different rephrasing. But it's not, don't view it as dollars in and I have the stuff in the game. I have the cards in the game. That is the resource that I get for my dollars. Because that means you can never quit. That means you can never leave Hearthstone behind, because the reason that you spent the money is you have all this stuff. And you have to keep playing and keep hitting the rewards in the reward stack because you have all this stuff. But if you don't want to play anymore, the gold in Hearthstone doesn't have value because it only buys you cards that you don't want to use. So you have to view it as dollars in, time out. So I took a look on my deck tracker, which I compulsively keep, and I move from computer to computer. Just on desktop, in the year 2020, I played 4,763 games of Hearthstone, none of those, not including Battlegrounds, and not including mobile. That was 493 hours of Hearthstone, which is 1.35 hours every day, again, not including any mobile or any Battlegrounds. If I bought all 6 pre-orders and the mini set, which I did, it is less than $1 per hour. If you look at a movie theater ticket, and again, I'm not asking you to look too closely at the economics of a movie theater, please just go and buy the popcorn. But say, assuming a ticket is, I don't know,
I do
$15.
every time.
Yeah, you have to. We cook it
You
in
have
coconut
to.
oil and we pop it right when you walk in at the busy time so the smell gets you. That's how it works. Assuming a $15 movie ticket for 2 to 3 hours, the value proposition of Hearthstone is exceptional. It is really exceptional. Now, not everyone plays as much as I do. I recognize that, given Garrett's eyes when I said my game count for the past year. But
Played
also,
like 700 hours of DBD last year.
okay, is that like, so spending money on that thing makes sense because you're
Yes.
doing a lot. It's the same reason why, like, if you're buying shoes, buy good shoes, not bad shoes, because you wear them every day. Bad shoes wear out. You have to replace them all the time. Spend the money on the thing you like and then do the thing. But there are also other better values. Hollow Knight is $15. Hades, I bought it for $20, except I bought it 5 times, so I negated a lot of the value proposition. But, like, I played Hades for 350 hours. That's a good deal. But also, I just bought WarioWare the other day. That was $50, and I beat the story campaign in 4 hours. I still enjoyed it. It's a different deal. It still was worth the money to me. It wouldn't be for everybody. Hearthstone is going to be a question of, what are you getting for your money? I spend more because I like having the variety right away and because I play a ridiculous amount of the game. But how much is too much to spend in a computer game is a question. That's going to depend on the game. It's going to depend on what I'm doing, and it's
There are
not
a lot of factors for sure.
Yeah. It's not how much is too much to spend. It's how much is too little to get back in terms of time enjoyed. That is the question that I'm really asking. When I spend money and then don't get a lot of time back, or the value, like, or if the game's not enjoyable, if I get no joy out of that time, that's where I start looking at a bad deal. I don't think Hearthstone's a bad deal given how it can be. It's been a lifestyle game of mine for 6 years. The year that I just told you, where I played nearly 500 hours of the game just on desktop, that was also my 5th year playing the game. What game can you be out there? You play it for 5 years, and the 5th year you play 500 hours of it. Ridiculous. So of course I'm going to keep spending money because I want them
Insert
to keep
your
making.
MMO of choice here, I guess. Like,
Well, yeah.
yeah, no, it's absolutely a great value proposition, which is like, it's how I got horribly into cocktails. So I was like, oh damn, it's so much cheaper than going to a cocktail bar. Holy crap! I can buy a bottle of bourbon and I can make exponentially way more old fashions than, $15 an old fashioned at a cocktail bar. That's the kind of thing. Although now I start to question the value proposition of also being into cars, because then I buy things and I spend hours hurting my spine on my back underneath the car. It's interesting. Yeah. It's all personal preference. And to Pi's credit, Pi worded it in a way that it seemed like Pi was just curious what our budgets were.
Yeah. it's not a bad question to ask, but the framing of how you answered is important and will lead to your perspective on what makes a game valuable or an experience valuable. And for me, and it sounds like for Josh, and well, for all of us, the value is not the cards or whatever you get out of a pre-order, but the time you get having fun out of the cards you get and out of the value you get from that pre-order and being able to experience a new expansion right away and into the rest.
Yeah, I would totally play I would totally have a different mindset too if I didn't do a show about it, because part of it is like I feel the desire to have a wide variety of cards so that I can try decks when they crop up and are popular, to try and get my head around it so I can talk about it on the show, so I can have some sort of frame of reference outside of obviously Aggro Priest. But, you know, if I was not a member of the Angry Chicken, honestly, I'd probably dust everything it is in Paladin and just move on with my life. And just like hardcore main Paladin. But yeah, so there's like also content creation aspects of it for me as well. And I don't know. I think about all of this as hobbies, because like with you know, personal concerns about finances aside, because I definitely have been in places in my life where I couldn't afford the games I wanted to play. Have absolutely been in that position, and unfortunately not in that position now. And so now where I am in a position where I can allocate funds to the hobbies that I enjoy, if someone does, and I'm not saying that what Pi is doing here, come at me with like, how can you spend that much on a game? I just go, well, what do you like? And here in Florida, a lot of times the answer is golf. And I go, all right, mofo, how much do you spend on golf? Because it's an expensive hobby.
How do you get any enjoyment out of it at all?
Oh, well, I mean, now you're being judgmental. I agree with you, but now you're being judgmental. Actually, I love going to a driving range. Let me just hit the ball. That's the most fun part of it. Get me the hell off a golf course.
I don't think that I've ever actually like played and enjoyed golf. I think I tried a driving range like 2 times, and all I wanted to do was hit the ball, and I couldn't hit the ball, and I was like, this is the most frustrating sport of life ever.
Well, okay.
Why am I trying to hit such a tiny ball with such a tiny stick? God damn it. Where's the baseball?
Hold on. Nighttime mini golf with drinking obviously is the correct answer.
No. Top golf.
Mini golf is different.
Top golf, not sponsored. However, Top Golf, if you would like to sponsor the Angry Chicken, I am very interested. But Top Golf.
Also a big fan of Top Golf.
Yes.
Good appetizers.
I will take that over mini golf any day of the week, because you don't have to walk. You just stand there like a bowling alley, whack balls as hard as you can, and drink till you can't see straight anymore. It's great. It's great. I've literally only done it like 2 times, but it's been very fun. It's just bowling, but golfing instead of bowling. It's wonderful. Anyways, we got horribly off track.
We got
horribly
very off.
I was trying to say, think about what might be more traditional, air quotes, traditional, because I am in my mid-30s, and that I feel like is becoming the median age for gamers at this point. Traditional hobbies, and it's very easy to just be like, oh, I'm spending less than $500 a year, or whatever your budget is. It's probably less than other hobbies you could pick up. So anyways, Hat, who's our final email from?
So our final email is from Random B. And I will note for anyone listening, this question is going to have, it's going to be it's a fairly intense question because it's about a fairly intense topic. And also there are going to be spoiler warnings for Book of Mercenaries Tamsin. If you have not played Book of Mercenaries Tamsin, you should go do that. It's really well done. And in particular, the final chapter is what we're going to be talking about here. There's going to be some spoilers here, so you'll want to skip ahead. So,
or
spoiler
to
warning.
Next week, because there's nothing else after this. This is the last.
This is the last thing. So you'll want to tune in at the end to listen to where you can hear.
Hold on, I have a new podcast I want to promote. So if you could please go, if you could please go subscribe to Nexus Gaming News wherever podcasts are found. Thank you. Now you may end this podcast.
There you go. Okay, now you can skip to next week.
So, the final match in Tamsin's Book of Mercs, which involved Tamsin slowly destroying her father's memories and mind, was deeply unsettling. I think this was a good thing, but it was also really, really dark, and it had an impact on my mood for the rest of the day. For context, I lost my grandmother to dementia, so in particular, things about losing memory are things I generally avoid. The fact that the player had to take the rule of Tamsin and do this to Cornelius, made worse by the way that you have to click and turn multiple times, The way it's done is genius, but is also really awful and made me feel sick. Which put me to mind of the content warning episode of The Instance. I would have really liked a content warning, but also think that having one would have ruined what made that match really impactful. On the other hand, it is starkly not what I expect from Hearthstone, which is a generally goofy game that I often play to lift my mood. I don't think I honestly could have prepared myself for that or the impact it had on me without some sort of content warning. With Hearthstone becoming a client for games, including story experiences, doing things like this, including Garrett's idea of asking people whether they want to see the content warning, would be really difficult to do without it feeling weird or even spoiling the content. Hearthstone doesn't normally need a warning, so a particular solo mode having one would make it obvious that something really messed up is happening. But on the other hand, Hearthstone is constantly changing and being updated, and as this shows, the tone of things depicted in the game can change after release from what the player expects it to be in the way that content in a self-contained game can't. What are your thoughts? Okay. Big question. Excellent email. Thank you so much for writing in.
Also, just thanks for
I
sharing. Like, to get
yes.
personal for a second, I too have lost a grandparent to dementia, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. So, random B, I feel you here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me as well. When I lost my grandmother this spring, it was to the same thing. So we definitely understand where you are coming from on a very personal level.
And the experience of playing that last mission, I did that today just to make sure. 'Cause I got halfway through it. I heard a rave reviews about it, but also the last mission was pretty dark. And I played through today, and it is haunting, I believe is the phrase that I used in our internal show chat.
Mhm.
Josh, did you play it?
No, I haven't had a chance to play it yet.
Okay. Um,
I generally wait to play solo content until usually I'm driving somewhere because then I
yeah.
just play solo stuff where my cell signal doesn't matter as
I,
much.
I
So
sure hope you mean writing somewhere.
well, yes, yeah. Usually,
Okay, just making
I'm
sure.
passenger and my husband drives. Yeah.
I was wondering who the
So,
warning in
but we
Pokemon Go
haven't
was
had
for.
with every. But with everything going on, we haven't traveled as much. So, yeah, normally I save this for long car rides or for traveling. But anyways, yeah. So I have a lot of the solo content that I haven't played yet.
Yeah. So this one was extremely well done. I strongly recommend it. The Bolivar fight's a pain in the butt, but otherwise, really, really well done. But the final fight is Brandon B alludes to it. You have to win by fatiguing your opponent, and they die from strictly fatigue damage. So you click end turn every turn to watch them take more and more damage successfully, and there are voice lines with every tick of fatigue damage from your opponent, who is your character's father. Um, it's very well done from a story standpoint, but really intense experientially, and you feel like you're doing it every time you click the button. There's no turn time or anything like that.
Oh,
I
great! So
don't.
they let you sit and think about your decisions.
Yeah,
That's even better.
it's usually a good idea to just slam that button as quickly as possible to get it over with. But like, this is not your garden variety Hearthstone experience. I appreciate that there's this kind of depth to the narrative thing that we can find in the game, but also it wasn't what I was expecting on a Monday afternoon. Um, so like, I don't have a great answer to this. And content warning, you'd have to get pretty specific on this one, because this is when you make content warnings in general. I think that it's when it's in a war game or whatever. If it's in a Spec Ops: The Line, you put it at the front of the game and you say like you are seeing
Oh,
this before
good
you play any of the
reference.
content in this entire game. Yeah,
Oh, that's
right. Great game, super dark, great storytelling. Right. So when you get this kind of experience in a standalone game, you put it at the front and like you know that you're gonna sign up for some dark crap. Um, Here, this just kind of happens out of nowhere as the last chapter of a story mode that like obviously Tamsin is not a great person. She's an undead necromancer that wants to raise a demon. You don't think that you're signing up to go along for, like a walk in the park here. But it takes a really specific and personal turn in a way that you'd have to warn about really specifically. It might be at the front, but I don't see a way to warn about this without spoiling it. And so the big question there, and I'll pivot to you two because you apparently had an episode of The Instance about it, of saying, how do you warn about something without ruining the impact? Because I don't really have a great answer for this one. I don't know what I would have done differently. And I think that having the impact here is more important than the warning. But that might not be the same for everyone, and this could potentially be really, really uh,
Dramatic.
traumatic for folks. So I'll throw it to you two about it.
Yeah, and I think if you guys are interested in kind of our longer takes about this topic, then that episode of The Instance that Garrett and I did is really, really good alongside Scott, obviously. And I thought that was a really, really good episode and a lot of great content there. And I think for me, what the whole issue kind of comes down to, and the reason why people have negative reactions to content in games has a lot to do with expectations, and whether that is the marketing of the game, or in this case it's we've played Hearthstone for so long and Hearthstone is so known to take like a goofy look at a lot of, even if it's been serious content in World of Warcraft, then usually Hearthstone's take on it or spin on it is like just ridiculous and funny. So I think if you're used to ridiculous funny content and then you go and you play Tamsin's story and all of a sudden you're destroying your father, um that's pretty heavy, and it's kind of a 180 from what we're used to seeing in Hearthstone. So I think it's also the kind of thing that you can't really get across with a warning, because like, or sorry, not a warning, a rating. Because like, so Hearthstone is, I can't remember if it's, what's the next
Pretty
one up
sure
from
it's
everyone?
teen.
A teen, that's it.
Pretty
teen.
sure it's T for
Yeah.
teen.
Yeah. So it is, and because that has to do with a lot of like the alcohol consumption, because we're in a tavern, and minor violence and stuff like that. And so there's the T rating, which could potentially mean different things to different people and doesn't necessarily point you in a specific direction. And a lot of these issues are more mental issues than like physical safety issues. You see a lot of warnings that have to do with things like violence, where, like it's off, they can tell you how graphic it is and, like everything else. But with these kind of things, we're starting to get into like nitty gritty kind of details. And you're right, Hat, like telling somebody that there's going to potentially be, I don't even know what wording I would use to get across a content warning about this, to be honest. Like, but it's like,
The way that I'd phrase it, I think, thinking about it more, is maybe when you start Book of Tams and you say, this story may take more serious themes, right? Maybe that you just have an opening to, when you launch Book of Mercenaries Tamsin, before you press play for the first mission, you say, this story arc will take more serious themes. And maybe you just leave it at that.
yeah, and I mean that's a way to do a warning in terms of like telling you that something is coming. But I think to make an educated decision for a lot of these mental health issues, you need a little bit more than that. And just
Yeah.
because like serious themes to someone who hasn't lost a grandparent to dementia might be, like any of the other, and I don't want to go into too much detail because, whatever, but look into like boyfriend dungeon content warning if you guys are interested to know other kinds of themes that fall under mental health. But I think that like mental health and those kind of issues are so very specific and specific to the person that you almost, like, serious themes isn't enough to tell you if you're going to have a bad time or not.
No, that's fair. And to take a page out of the conversation we had on the instance, was that like I kind of ended on like content warnings in general, like because we're working in interactive media, because this is a conversation around video games, why not simply ask, would you like to view our content warning for this content?
Mm-hmm.
And a simple yes, no.
Yeah, I think that Garrett too, putting that question out there, that's enough to say like, hey, this content isn't going to be like normal Hearthstone because we've put a warning in front of it, which most of Hearthstone doesn't have at all, right? So that's probably enough for the vast majority of people. And if you need a laundry list, you can look into it further, click a button, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And two, it's like, I don't know, video games are such a collaborative art form, too, like especially really anything coming out of a studio the size of Blizzard or similar studios. We know the Hearthstone team is large, and their experiences are going to vary. And I'm sure some people listening are like, it's Hearthstone. Why are you taking it so seriously? Don't take the Hearthstone too seriously, kid. I don't know why they're talking like that, but that's the voice I inflect. Like I realize that Hearthstone is typically and fairly, and the whole reason we're having this conversation, pretty happy-go-lucky, tongue-in-cheek, not taking things too seriously. That said, there's single player. I think I haven't played a ton of it. Hearthstone single player, not really why I come to the game. But some of it has taken more of a serious tone. Even going all the way back to the Jaina Book of Heroes, I thought like it was a little more self-serious than I was expecting. I ended up enjoying it as a result of that. Like it was a more serious take that really kind of dealt with some of the darker themes of Jaina's arc through like going way back into deep Warcraft lore. So I guess my point is like, because there's so many people working on this, you don't know who's writing it. You don't know what they're hoping to get out of it. There's a certain point of just artistic expression where you want to put some of yourself into the work. And I don't even say, we don't even know if that's the case here. We don't know if someone who had a hand in writing the story had that type of experience. I'm just saying that I could see that being the case. Because you end up, when you create something, you tend to put some of yourself into it, whether consciously or subconsciously.
Which I think is why so many people end up seeing themselves in the content, right? Is because it is being written by more and more diverse writers over the years. And I think that, when you have had these personal experiences and you put them into your work, it's really going to speak to someone on the other end of it who may have had the same similar experience. So I can see why so many people are starting to get touched in very deep emotional ways by gaming, is just because there are so many diverse experiences out there now, and writing teams are starting to just be more diverse as well, and that's going to bring more experiences and speak to more people.
Well said. I was surprised because I haven't played this either. I haven't really played much single player Hearthstone in quite a while, but I was surprised to see this email come in. But I was, again, thanks Random B for sharing. Like this is a serious sharing and opening up that like we're not used to in emails that come into the inbox. So thanks.
Hearthstone's making people feel things.
Hearthstone's making people feel things. Heck yeah.
Matt London, man. He's the writing that he's done for the mercenary characters, the creation of them and fleshing them out has been really, really great. And I think Tamsin is a great example of a darker turn on that. Whereas I would also like to take this moment to lift the mood of the show and shout out my beautiful boy Guff, who is just, I just love him so much.
I was going to say, this is not Guff playing with squirrels.
No. I unlocked level 100 in the rewards track today, and I immediately switched to the Guff Fauna friend portrait where he is feeding a bird. I get to watch that all game, so I'm going to cue some druid after this and just look at Guff feeding the bird.
At least you can still find some happy feels in Hearthstone.
Well, folks, if you'd like to write in, you can do so. tacpodcast@gmail.com. If you're a patron, drop us a message in the Patron Discord. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Angry Chicken. Speaking of that Patron Discord, if you want to become a patron, we very much appreciate the support. As we are an independent podcast, you can support us here at The Angry Chicken over at patreon.com/TAC. Also, a huge thanks to our Patreon producers. So Declan H. and Jeffrey D., thank you very much for your support of the podcast. If you'd like to become a producer, get thanked on each and every episode of The Angry Chicken. For your support, check out patreon.com/TAC. I have more than one Patreon, and sometimes my brain gets confused. Other than that, if you want to catch the back catalog of episodes, maybe you were like, wait, where were you last week? Well, we did 2 episodes a week before because we had a big Battlegrounds update. That was its own episode. And then we had a big Mercenaries reveal. That was its own other episode. If you missed one of those, go to theangrychicken.com. Every single episode we've ever freaking posted can be found there. But around the table, before we go, Joss, you do more than this. You also do the instance with me and Scott Johnson. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. That's JOCE Plays. You can also find me over on the Gamers Inn, where we are starting up our Extra Life campaign. It's that time of the year again, guys. Can you believe it?
What?
No, is the answer. Yeah. So we're going to be doing probably about 3 or 4 streams over the next few months, do stay tuned for that. Again, you can check out Gamers and Podcast for all the details, or you can go to bit.ly/TGI Extra Life 2021 is the link to the team page. So again, that benefits the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals, and you're probably going to hear me talking about it quite a lot between now and December. So enjoy.
It's a really good freaking cause.
It is a good cause, and this is my 10th year doing it, 10th year. And so my goal is just under $2,000, because if I hit that goal, then I will have raised $15,000 in 10 years. And that makes me feel real good.
Well, get me a link. You got a donation coming.
Yay! Thanks, Garrett.
Ridiculous Hat. That's where people can find you, but you could also explain to them where they can find you.
If you take the thing Garrett just said and add a .com at the end, or a twitter.com/ at the front, that's where you should go. Twitter.com/ridiculous hat. That's the hub of my content. You can also find me on other Hearthstone podcasts if you need more of those. Of course you do. Coin Concede is where we make the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is the bridge between casual and competitive. We talk about tournaments and stuff, and we also we take an educational focus. And then Vicious Syndicate is a data-driven look at the Hearthstone standard metagame. Coin Concede at coinconcede.com, Vicious Syndicate at vicioussyndicate.com. And Garrett, where can we find you?
Everything that I do, including this here very podcast, can be found over at amove.tv. That is AMOVE.tv. And I just launched a brand new gaming news podcast called Nexus Gaming News. Nexus Gaming News. Been experimenting with it over on the Into the Nexus feed with one Kyle Ferguson, because we were talking about the Blizzard news with the lawsuit week after week after week. And we're like, we need to just give ourselves a place to talk about gaming news. And started experimenting with 30 minutes a week on that. And now it's its own thing. We're going to be talking about the KOTOR announcement tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
Because that is one of Kyle's all-time favorite games, and I've never made it off the first planet. So.
Garrett!
And that was played on an iPad when I failed to make it off the first planet.
Oh, it was the racing. It was the racing.
I didn't get that far.
Garrett.
Yeah. Anyways, I'll be talking about, if you want to hear more about that, listen to Nexus Gaming News. Just now available literally anywhere you get your podcast. And if you're a podcast nerd, you know how this works. A lot of new subs and a lot of new downloads within the first month of a podcast launching. That does wonders for the charts. So please, just go give it a listen. I think you'll dig it. It's bite-sized gaming news at your ear holes. Nexus Gaming News. Everything else is at amove.tv, that included. It's going to do it for this week. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Thank you for your emails. Thanks for hanging with us. And until next time, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
I'm in a much better mood than when I started.
Good.